Maple Leafs Nation, are you feeling that familiar, agonizing tension? That suffocating dread that comes in off-season where the future of your franchise's most enigmatic star hangs precariously in the balance? We're talking, of course, about Mitch Marner. And as the whispers grow louder, the question becomes less about if he'll move, and more about who could possibly fill the void he'd leave behind. Because let's be honest, sometimes in the cutthroat world of the NHL, you have to trade what's uncertain for what's reliably, undeniably good. And when that reliable good comes with a name like Bryan Rust, and you're desperate for an offensive solution without Marner on the roster, that trade stops being a contingency plan and starts looking like the only realistic path forward. The Toronto Maple Leafs offseason feels less like a meticulously crafted strategy and more like one of those grandma's cake recipes, full of strange, unexpected ingredients. But the hope, the fervent, desperate hope, is that if everything goes just right, it turns out delicious. Except now, there's a new ingredient being whispered about, and it's not powdered. We're talking about Bryan Rust, and he comes with a resume that includes a solid 30-goal season, invaluable playoff experience, and not one, but 2 Stanley Cups. All of that wrapped up in a relatively fair contract for the kind of impact he brings. On the other side of the ice, the Pittsburgh Penguins are starting to look in the mirror, and the reflection staring back is asking a difficult existential question. Is it finally time to rebuild this roster? The trade is on the table. The pieces are there. But does it truly make sense for both sides? Let's break it all down together. From a hush behind-the-scenes negotiations to Bryan Rust's real, tangible impact in the Leafs' top 6. Can he truly replace Marner? And what do the Penguins gain from this? Besides 3 players who, to some, might look like leftovers from the back of Toronto's fridge. Today, we dive deep into this fascinating, high-stakes proposal. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee or a cold beer, depending on the hour, and let's talk hockey. The Toronto Maple Leafs are undeniably in search of a new top 6 winger, a player capable of filling the colossal hole that Mitch Marner will inevitably leave. Whether it's through a blockbuster trade, a cap-force restructuring, or simply the natural wear and tear in a relationship between player and franchise, the undeniable fact remains. This team desperately needs a new offensive reference point, a consistent presence to complement their remaining stars. And that's precisely where Bryan Rust's name has surged onto the radar. According to well-connected sources like the Fourth Period, Rust's name has been floating around in trade discussion for a while now, a quiet hum beneath the louder off-season noise. He has no trade protection, which, for a team like the Leafs navigating complex cap situations, makes any potential transaction significantly easier. Yes, he's 33 years old, an age where some players begin to decline, but he's coming off a remarkably solid 30-goal season. He's healthy. He plays meaningful minutes in all situations, and most importantly, he is a proven playoff performer. He embodies a kind of quiet grit, the unsung hero who consistently shows up when the bright lights are on and the stars sometimes fade. He's the type of player who elevates his game when it matters most, a quality the Leafs have desperately lacked in recent postseasons. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty, the speculative trade proposal that has captured the attention of the hockey world. It appears deceptively simple on the surface. The Leafs receive Bryan Rust. In return, the Pittsburgh Penguins receive Kaye Jarnkrok, David Kampf, and Henry Thrun. But behind that simplicity lies a tactical, emotional, and even political complexity that demands calm, thorough analysis. Let's take a couple of steps back to understand the context. The 2024-25 season ended on a bittersweet note for the Leafs. Auston Matthews continued his elite scoring prowess. Nylander exploded offensively, but Marner, for all his brilliance, fluctuated between flashes of genius and frustratingly quiet nights. The fan base, growing increasingly impatient with repeated playoff disappointments, is starting to demand real, tangible change. And management, acutely aware of the pressure, knows they can't keep this core together indefinitely without giving up at least one valuable piece to rebalance the roster. The Penguins, meanwhile, began a partial sell-off at the last trade deadline, moving out depth pieces and attempting to retool. They even tried to trade Rust then, but the asking price, reportedly, scared teams off. Now, with a quieter summer and more time to structure better, more appealing offers, the landscape has shifted, and Toronto, with its clear need and available assets, is emerging as one of the top suitors. This isn't the first time the Leafs and Penguins have flirted with a trade. Both franchises understand the immense value of veteran players and how heavily decisions weigh in their demanding win-now markets. Toronto wants to win now, unequivocally. Pittsburgh wants to stay competitive while simultaneously refreshing its aging roster. This is a precise point where both of these distinct yet converging needs intersect. Let's dive deeper into Bryan Rust's profile. He's not flashy. He won't dominate highlight reels with dazzling dekes, but he is extremely dependable. Over the last 5 seasons, he has scored more than 110 goals, a testament to his consistent offensive output. He's a quick transition player, incredibly smart without the puck, and excellent on the forecheck, creating turnovers and generating offensive zone time. His average ice time last season was over 17 minutes per game, a clear indicator the coaches trust in him in all situations, from power plays to penalty kills. His contract, at $5.125 million through 2027, is not a bargain basement deal, but it is undeniably fair for what he brings, especially in a market inflated by contracts like Tavares and Marner, which have surpassed the $10 million mark. Now, let's look at the pieces going Pittsburgh. Kaye Jarnkrok is versatile, capable of playing either wing, solid on the penalty kill, and possesses a decent shot, carrying a $2.1 million cap hit. David Kampf is excellent in the face-off circle and a great defensive forward, though his offensive production is very limited, with a $2.4 million cap hit. And then there's Henry Thrun, a promising young left-shot defenseman with a high hockey IQ, who could realistically develop into a 4th or even 3rd defenseman in the rotation. Together, Jarnkrok and Kampf combine for approximately $4.5 million in cap space, plus Thrun's entry-level deal, which would give the Leafs slight cap relief and, crucially, open a roster spot, providing much-needed flexibility. Beyond the numbers and the cap hits, there's the invaluable, often overlooked, aspect of locker room impact. Rust is one of those guys who quietly wins over a locker room. When he first arrived in Pittsburgh, many doubted he'd stick around. He was perceived as too small for the physical game, not highly touted, but he proved everyone wrong with sheer effort, unwavering determination, and intelligent play. He won 2 cups and became, in many ways, an extension of the coach on the ice. He's a leader by example. Kaye Jarnkrok is known as a consummate professional. He never complains about which line he's on, always ready to step in when there's an injury, a true team-first player. Kampf, meanwhile, is highly respected in the room, a quiet leader who sets a defensive tone. And Thrun, while still a bit of a mystery at the NHL level, comes with excellent marks in the development system, suggesting a high-character player. In Toronto, Rust would slide straight into the top 6, likely playing alongside Austin Matthews and Matthew Knies, or possibly with William Nylander. Depending on a lineup configuration, he brings something Marner doesn't: a more vertical play style, a quick release, and less dependence on open ice to create offense. He drives to the net, he battles in the corners, and he finishes. In Pittsburgh, Jarnkrok could easily eat up top 6 minutes if needed, providing veteran stability. Kampf becomes a shutdown and penalty kill option, solidifying their defensive structure, and Thrun can compete for a spot in training camp and develop over the season, potentially becoming a long-term piece for their blue line. This trade resembles recent, highly successful moves like Blake Coleman to Flames or even Zach Hyman to the Oilers, players who don't necessarily shine on their own, but are instrumental in helping the stars shine brighter. Bo Horvat, Sam Reinhart, Brandon Saad, all were traded at similar points in their careers and all exceeded expectations when inserted into structured systems that maximize their strengths. The precedent, it seems, is firmly on Rust's side. Insiders like Frank Saravalli have emphatically stated, Rust is one of the most underrated names on the market. Whoever gets him is getting a leader and a finisher. Anthony Stewart, a former NHLer and insightful analyst, adds, Toronto needs players like that. Marner is brilliant, but Rust gets things done. He plays a playoff game every night. For the Leafs, this move allows them to replace Marner with a consistent veteran presence, clear some valuable cap space, and stay highly competitive without sacrificing their future assets. For the Penguins, they receive tradable pieces in Jarnkrok and Kampf, who could become further draft picks down the line. gain youth and potential with Thrawn, and transition wisely into their next phase without a full-blown rebuild. So, let's imagine the perfect fit, the dream scenario that every fan hopes for. Rust arrives in Toronto and becomes a consistent 25 to 30 goal scorer, a reliable offensive engine. Matthews rediscovers his absolute best game with a gritty, hard-working winger on his line. Knies grows exponentially under Rust's veteran wing, learning the nuances of playoff hockey. On the other side, Jarnkrok becomes a valuable trade chip for the Penguins by the February deadline, netting them more future assets. Kampf locks down crucial penalty kill duties, providing defensive stability, and Thrawn, in 2 short years, becomes a regular, impactful defenseman on their roster. Does this trade finally help the Leafs break through that agonizing second-round curse? There are no guarantees in hockey, but trades like this, calculated and impactful, lay the crucial groundwork for sustained success. So, what do you think, Leafs Nation? Does this trade make undeniable sense to you? A necessary evil to retool the roster? Or are you in the camp that sees Rust as just duct tape on a sinking ship, a temporary fix that won't solve the core issues? Drop your thoughts, your passionate opinions, and your predictions in the comments section below. Who do you believe wins this trade, the Leafs or the Penguins? And perhaps the most contentious question of all, would you keep Marner, hoping for a resurgence, or trade him now while he still holds maximum value? Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out, because in the coming weeks, we'll dive deep into other fascinating trade possibilities, including one involving a certain team from Ottawa that reportedly has its eyes on Tyler Bertuzzi. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.